Hey everyone, Kyle here. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain a little bit. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.fm. They'll have everything you need all in one place. I can speak from my experience. It's been awesome so far and super easy. So go check it out, guys, and we'll see you later. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm Kyle Rasmussen, and today I have with me Savannah. Savannah, how are you today?
I'm good, Kyle. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, awesome. Glad to hear it. So I'm super excited for this conversation. I know we were talking a little bit beforehand about your time in China, and so I'm really curious to hear a lot about that. Yeah.
Well, I'd be happy to tell you about it. It was a while ago. It was in May in 2019. So I'm going to see how well my memory does for this.
Okay. Before the world ended, essentially.
Except right before it did. I was actually, I remember I was in the gym on the rowing machine and I saw the headlines across the news, like talking about the outbreak in China. And I was oh my gosh, I need to message my friends about this, who are in China. And I asked them, and I'm not sure how much they were legally allowed to say it or what was blocked on the chatting apps. But it was really interesting seeing it from the beginning, from their perspective. Back when we were so naive and we were just like, oh, it's gonna stay there.
Yeah. So when were you over there? Like what time of the year?
It was May. So I was there for 10 days with a cultural exchange program that my university and their university had set up. And it was the first year of them doing it. So there's other programs that went to Japan and a couple of other countries, but this was the first year for China. So it was pretty cool to be able to be kind of some of the first representatives for the university there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But the school was NCIAE, which is the North China Institute of Aerospace Engineering.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a mouthful. That's why everyone just summarizes the NCIAE, but still, it sounded really impressive when I signed up for it. I'm like, Are you sure I don't have to be an engineer to go on this trip?
What were you studying?
English.
Okay.
English and biology.
That's close to aerospace engineering.
I think so. I'm like, you need someone to write these pamphlets for you?
Yeah.
I got it. Don't know Chinese, but I'll translate. Which I didn't even think about that till now, but I just assumed it was an engineering school, but there was people, a whole bunch of different degrees there. So I think that was just the name of the school. So I'm not sure how that came about.
Was it in Beijing? Or where was it?
It was in Langfang, China, which is near Beijing, but that's the closest city that it's to. It was just a little bit on the outskirts of it. I didn't originally sign up for that trip. I signed up for the Japan trip, but this one was an amazing experience to get to go on. So I'm glad that I said yes to that opportunity. Yeah. I don't even know how to begin to explain how crazy the prep for this trip was. Luckily, I didn't have to do that much of it, but the work that goes into getting a visa specifically for China, I've never done that much intense question. The questionnaire, it was like 30 pages long.
Oh, geez. What were the questions?
It asked about all of my family members and past education and past work experiences and religious affiliations. And
jeez.
Basically they know everything about me now and my family, which I did not get their consent to put that information on the form, but I'm sure it'll be fine. It's been this many years now, so. Yeah.
That's crazy. Jeez. I remember when I went to Russia, you had to get a visa to go there as well. And it was pretty intense. You had to fill out a bunch of documents and mail your passport to the embassy, and then they would do the visa and send it back to you. But
Yeah,
it was like a whole 2-month process, I think.
That's how ours was too. It was, and one of the professors who was supposed to go on the trip with us, her visa was denied for
no.
it was some random reason. It was like she had gone on a religious kind of mission 5 years ago, and I don't know if they were worried she was going to try to prophesize to people or what, but she was denied, which I think it's funny because it was a Benedictine Catholic school we were going with. So, you kind of would think that, be like, oh, well, there might be some religious people on this.
Yeah.
But who knows? It ended up working out with just one professor who went with us.
Dang, that's crazy.
But it was 4 of us students and one professor. And we were meeting 5 other of our professors down there. So it was a pretty small group, but then we ended up meeting a lot more of the professors down there. So it was a good time.
Yeah, cool. So were you guys in classes all day, or did you get to explore outside of that?
So it was a pretty intensive program there. Our days were kind of scheduled from breakfast at 7 a.m. till you got to go back to our rooms at 6 p.m. So we had a variety of classes. They weren't we weren't being graded on it or anything, but there was kind of just an understanding that you would understand it by the end, that you'd be able to use some of the language that they taught you and have a sense of the culture and the country, and just kind of what the school is about, which I really enjoyed, because whenever I go to someplace, I like to get a better sense of everything that's going on. I mean, that's what you do when you travel. You want to get to know the culture and the people. And so it was kind of intense at times, but overall was pretty good. The hardest was definitely the language before. I don't know if you've tried to learn Chinese before.
I'm scared to try.
Yeah, me too. Even when you have you're in a room full of 10 other fluent people and you're in there with 3 other students trying to learn. It was impossible. I even did some Duolingo when I got back to try to keep what I had learned, and everything completely out of my head.
Yeah.
So that was not ideal. But I feel my brain's stronger because of it.
It's always good to challenge yourself and make yourself think a little bit.
Yeah, it was most definitely a challenge.
That's one of the things I really enjoy about traveling is you're forced to be taken out of your normal comfortable life, and you got to figure things out, and maybe you can't speak the language. So it makes you work, which I think helps make you better as well as kind of keep you young too.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I know we talked a little bit before, but I've been feeling way too old since I haven't been able to go out and travel as much recently. And I'm it's the quickest way to make you feel young again. It's just going out there and doing new things and meeting new people and doing things that make you a little nervous. So at least that's what I find to be true.
Yeah, I think that's where you really grow, is going outside your comfort zone, doing something that makes you nervous, like a podcast, maybe.
Like a podcast, yeah.
Honestly, it's amazing looking back now after all these episodes. I mean, I was terrified on the first one, and I still get nervous, but it's way easier now. It's just crazy, to see all the growth.
What is this time. The 19th one?
This one's probably when it airs is going to be 21.
Just quick maths, really quick.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't far off then.
Depends. It depends on the recording schedule and everything. So
I was curious. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions.
Oh yeah,
on this,
for sure. I love questions.
You might have answered them before, but why podcast? What got you into this?
Yeah, so I would say a few different reasons. One, I love to travel, and I wanted to share it with people.
Solid reason.
That was number one. I really enjoy podcasts personally. I listen to a lot of them. That's kind of my go-to, at a gym or driving or, flying or whatever. And I've listened to a lot of travel podcasts, and not to bash them, but I personally
not to bash them, but a little bit to bash them.
I personally don't like the really edited podcasts, and a lot of the ones I've listened to are very edited. It's very like non-conversational. And I don't like that. So I wanted to do one that was very conversational, just 2 people talking or 3 people talking, and just see how it goes. So I really, honestly, I've done maybe in all these episodes, maybe like an hour worth of editing.
Only an hour?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Most of that was on one episode where the audio got really messed up and I had to re-record some things.
We'll see on this one. You're going to be like, oh, that was bad. That was a whole trash section.
This whole one's going to be an hour by itself. But yeah, so, I thought it's a fun way to share travel with people. I really want to inspire people to travel. And it also has kind of gone along with other travel things that I do. I hate plugging this. I hate the self-promotion, but I wrote a book.
I heard that. I was going to ask about the book, when it's coming out. What details can you spill to your listeners?
Yeah. It's still a lot of stuff that needs to happen, but the deadline for it to be completely ready to go is supposed to be about mid-December.
That's soon.
So yeah, it feels like a long time, especially because it already has been over 8 months since I started it.
That's not a lot of time in writing time.
Yeah, true. For me, I'm just like, it should be done tomorrow, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Your perfectionism is kicking in every day. You're not writing it.
Yeah.
And are you self-publishing this, or are you?
Nope. It got picked up by a publisher.
Nice. Well, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, it's just kind of, this whole travel thing is kind of snowballed. I wanted to keep traveling a lot, and find a way to do more travel, in my life. And so this podcast started, and the YouTube shows now, and the book. I'm writing another travel book, this time a novel, and hoping to expand into other things as well.
Amazing.
So it's going to be a whole conglomerate. That's the vision.
I guess that's how you know you're on the right track, if things just keep snowballing in a positive manner.
I mean, hopefully. So far, it's been fun. It's been good. I recently started making money on it, so that's exciting.
It means it's working.
Yeah, hopefully.
Wow.
So back to China.
Back to China.
Okay. So I know we jumped around a little bit, but what were some of the memorable moments there, or what was it like getting to China?
Yeah, well, the flight alone, I don't remember the exact hours. I want to say it was like 17 hours on a plane. It was a lot. And I'd been on previous trips before that were pretty long, but they were only like 7 or 9 hours. It was nothing like that. So it was fine, but I guess, like all long flights, you have to get used to not getting up and moving around as much as you'd like to. And I actually couldn't sleep for like any of it, despite how hard I tried.
That's the same with me on any flight. I can't sleep.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a good thing I downloaded like a million Netflix shows at that point. It really got me through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But what was really crazy is when we finally landed at the airport, there was no one there. Like, we got there was just like the one plane was our plane that landed, and there was almost like a ceremonial procession of people coming to collect us in the bags, like not me, but like everyone on the plane. And I was like, this is so formal and professional compared to what you see when you fly in the US, and they're just like, get your bags out of here, get off the plane. But it was like, it felt like either they knew exactly who was on that plane and who was going to be there, or there was just like not that many planes that day or something. But either way, it was
did
really
you fly
cool.
into Beijing?
Yeah, Beijing airport. Wow. I know. So I was thinking like, this is the biggest city that I can think of. There'd be tons of flights here, but that was not the case. And even when we got into the airport, like the customs area or something like that, not a single person. And so like it felt really odd because it was such a huge airport, but no one was there. And so
What time of the day was it?
it was nighttime. So I want to say we got there probably around 7, maybe 6, but it was still light out, but it was later at night. I just remember my phone says we got to our the hotel at like 10, but to me it felt like I'd been up for so many hours at that point. I had no concept of time anymore. I was just kind of like following our professor. I'm like, if she gets us there, she's a saint. Because I just need to sleep. But yeah, so we went through customs. We got our fingerprints done. We like got our pictures taken.
You have to do fingerprints?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
It was. I was like, be on your best behavior, and even then, I was a little worried. But yeah, so that was fun. But then you got to the outer portion of the airport. There was lots of people, so I was like, they must just really get people through and get them on their way. So it was less kind of scary once we got to see the rest of the people.
That's wild. Because I went to Hong Kong in 2016, I think, which is technically part of China. But you didn't have to do. Who you ask. Yeah, technically it's a Chinese territory, but we didn't have to do any of that stuff. I didn't have to get a visa. There was a lot of people at the airport. I didn't have to do fingerprints or anything like that.
Because it's just a territory. They're like
Yeah, it was crazy. Anyways.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that sounds much more relaxing.
It's weird.
I got there and I was like, can I even drink water? Like, I don't know what's legal.
Honestly. What was that like, being there, like maybe not knowing all the rules?
I think if I were to be on my own, I'm not sure if they would let me on my own, but I would have been a lot more nervous because number one, I don't speak Chinese, so I don't feel like I can just go up to someone and be like, hey, where do I go? Which part am I supposed to do? And I found it to be a very serious culture, so there wasn't a lot of smiling or display of emotions. And I feel like I'm a pretty emotional person. I show a lot on my face. And so I feel like if I were to go up to someone and be like, I'm lost, they'd be like, okay, what do you want from me? Everyone was very, very nice. And they have such a huge hospitality culture that you could really feel everywhere. But in this particular airport incident, I did not feel that way. So, but then, like I said, once we got through everything and there was a whole bunch of people afterwards. So I think it was just that area. But what did happen is our driver, who was supposed to come pick us up from the school, which was like 2 hours away by car, didn't show up. And so we'd be sitting there for like 2 hours at this point, waiting for him to show up. And I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm like, this is it. Like, I'll just sleep here. I'm not going to find anything. And anyway, lucky our professor was on top of it. I don't know how she found the guy or how she communicated to anyone, but she was amazing. And she got us into this van. It just kind of pulled up and they got out and they were like, are you the students for this? And we just stood up and said yes and got into an unmarked white van at the airport.
Oh, that's safe.
And my mom was like, you did what when you got to China? I was like, listen, I was so tired. I just got into that van. The man said he knew who we were.
He said he had candy. It was fine.
Yeah, I said, I'm hungry. I like candy. Throw me in the back. But hey, it all worked out. So that's what matters.
Yeah, those are the stories that you tell your mom after you get back.
Yeah, no, that was, I didn't have my phone there or I just had a little bit of Wi-Fi and you actually can't use except for a couple of apps like WeChat, I think.
Yeah, a lot of things are blocked there.
Yeah, unless you have a VPN, which I did not. So like Instagram, Facebook, messaging, everything was gone for that 10 days, which was nice, but also like I can't communicate with anyone.
Yeah. Oh, that's so wild to think like, a lot of things that we're used to every day, they don't even have them over there. Or it's all blocked. Yeah,
completely. Which, it was really relaxing. I didn't have to worry about it, but not so great when your parents are wondering if you're alive at that moment. They just had to trust. They're like, in 10 days, we'll get a message and we'll know or not.
Yeah. I know. I feel bad for at least my mom. I know she worries with me traveling everywhere, but you know what? I'm fine. Like, for the most part, I'm pretty smart and not doing stupid things, but
that's good. You'll be
okay.
like, Mom, listen, in the event that something does go wrong, I'll make sure it's a really cool story so people want to make a Netflix documentary about it and be like, exactly. That's how Kyle went missing.
Yeah. Then you can at least like get some royalties off of it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what she's concerned about.
Anyway, so you finally made it to the school.
Yes. So the past 2 days in China, there had been so much rain that it was flooded like up to your calves.
Oh gosh.
We knew that's what we were going into because our professors there, who were already in Beijing, had told us that was going on. But it still doesn't prepare you when you haven't slept in so many hours and you get out of a van and you feel like it's 2 a.m. and you're up to your calf in water. And it's just, listen, the next day was better. But they were very kind to us and they had gotten us McDonald's because they're like, Americans, they're going to be hungry. Let's get them some chicken nuggets. And so I was like, thank you, but I'm vegetarian. Do you have any fries? Which they did. They were very accommodating. But at that point, I just wanted sleep. So
yeah, that gel egg can be brutal.
Yeah, it was not great. But we got lots of sleep. And then the next morning we were up at 6 and that's when we had our house tours or I don't know what they're called, house stays kind of, which I think was probably the coolest part of the trip. So we got out into it felt like we had a hotel, like an entire hotel just for us to stay in. Like, I think they're used to having a lot more people there, but the week we happened to be there, it was just our little group. And so it just felt like we're in this big, empty, like really beautiful hotel. And we're just on the bottom. So we'd walk out into this beautiful atrium. And this morning there happened to be like 10 other people there who looked very high level and official. And we're like, oh, good morning. Welcome. And so those ended up being the individuals that we went with our day trips. And they split each of us up into our own group, which I was nervous about because I like always having a travel buddy with me. I don't like being split up with a new person I just met. But luckily, I ended up being in the group that the professor went with, and nice. I've known her all my years I went to school, so I was like pretty comfortable with her. And then we ended up getting to go with, I believe she was the dean of the English department, and she was just right off the bat so nice and kind, and came up and gave me a hug and was like, "You're my daughter for the day, so if you need anything, you let me know, and I've got your back." And I was like, okay, like, nice. Wow, that's amazing. We'll see what I need today. Yeah. What can you get me? But we started off the day by going to her house, and it was a really nice house. And we walked in and she had us take off our shoes and gave us each like our own new pair of slippers to wear around the house. So that was really fun of her. And then she had a group of students waiting for us to kind of spend the day together. And we played a whole bunch of ping pong, or table tennis as they call it. And let me tell you, apparently I don't know how to play ping pong correctly because they told me that I wasn't doing it right. But I did learn the proper technique, and now I'm a master at it.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah, ping pong wars shall be had. But yeah, the students were super nice, and it felt like they had been preparing for our visit because they knew a lot about me. And like one of the things that was really sweet is they knew, so I love sweets so much. I'm a huge sweets person, and I guess that's not really a big thing there. And so we went out to lunch, and they had special ordered like 5 different desserts for me to try while I was there. I know, I was like, I mean, I said I like desserts, but you didn't have to. So we got there, they had a huge round table, like you'd go into and have like a huge office discussion, but then it was all covered in food. And I think that was one of the coolest parts, is how they served food. On that huge round table, they just swiveled the food all around. But this one was...
That's actually really smart.
Right? This one was automated, so it was like a carousel of rolling food in a circle, which was a little bit hard when you're using chopsticks and you're just trying to quickly grab something off of it. I think they loved watching us try to do that.
I wouldn't get to have any food because I can't use chopsticks.
You went to Hong Kong and you made it through without using it?
Yeah, I was in Southeast Asia for 2 weeks and I still can't use chopsticks.
That's on your list of things to master next. How to use chopsticks.
So hard.
You can bring your own little travel pair of like little kids.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry,
Practice
I got
ones.
this. Yeah. But I got the hang of it. I'm pretty good with chopsticks, but they did offer us other utensils if we needed them. After they watched us struggle for a couple slippery pieces of thing, they're like, here, we got you a spoon.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you. Thought I got this, but thank you.
What kind of foods do they have?
Endless food, really. They had a whole bunch of like sauteed meat and vegetable dishes, and elaborate displays of fruit. And fruit like I've never even seen before. There was, of course, like watermelon and some really other pretty things like that. But I actually loved getting to try the fruit there. So they had like lychee and mangosteen, and I'd never had those before, and they were so good. Like, to this day, on my mind all the time, I'm just like, I want lychee so badly. Like, it's just, once you taste certain foods, you never want to not eat them again.
Yeah. Is there any place here in the U.S. to get that?
I assume... I mean, I think you can order anything online these days, so I could probably have it here in like 2 days with Amazon if I needed. Not that we support Amazon. But I'm not sure. I don't think I've Googled fresh places to find mangosteen.
Sure, over in Seattle, probably.
Probably. You're right. I guess I just haven't looked it up. But I did have a delicious, like, I'm jumping ahead of the story, but we went to a place for dinner, like one of the last nights, and it was kind of like hot pot. And so they had tons of meat and tons of vegetables and different sauces. But again, I don't eat meat. And so it was just like, I had some lettuce and I had some mushrooms, and I was like, I'm starving. Like, I need something else with this. And I don't know if they could just tell because I wasn't eating that much of the stuff, but they had ordered each of us like, a tomato noodle soup type thing. At least that's what it looked like to me. And it was towards the end of the meal, and it was so, so hot. So I was like burning my mouth as I was just trying to get a little bit of taste of it. And then like 10 minutes later, like, we have to go. And so I just got a couple tastes of it, but it was the best soup I've ever had in my life. And to this day, I can't figure out what the name of it is. So I can't even try to recreate it or find it. And I even reached out to my friend who I made there, and he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, the red soup at the end of the meal, the red soup. And he was like, you've lost it, lady. And I was like, did I make it up? Like, was I thinking about food so much? Yeah. So that was the most delicious and sad food experience.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. How were the desserts?
Less sweet than I'm used to, of course, but America's the land of sugar, so I don't know. They were good, though. There was like a bean paste sort of wrap type thing, like in a fluffy bun. That was pretty good. They also had, I feel like the texture was kind of like caramel peanut brittly, like it was hard and then covered in kind of like puffed cereal type thing, but again, not very sweet at all. So I felt like I could keep sitting there and just like popping a whole bunch of them in my mouth. I'm like, no one else wants to eat these? Okay, fine, I'll finish this. And then they also had, she ended up gifting me like a whole gift bag at the end of that stay, but they had some like white rabbit candies and some different caramel flavored things. Yeah, so they were mostly hard candies, though. I don't there wasn't many like gummy type things there, but they were all pretty good. And I was just touched that they knew that I liked those things, and so they had gone out of their way to make sure that there was going to be something there that I would really like.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so I know we kind of jumped around a little bit there.
Sorry,
again.
my bad.
Okay, where do you want to go back to now?
I feel like since we're on food, I should tell you about the start of breakfast. So they made sure that like they had all the meals planned already for us before we got there, which I don't know how they did this level of detail planning, but they were on top of it. So the first day we woke up and we were like, oh, I don't know where I'm supposed to find food before we do this. So all the students, when we first got there, they assigned us each 2 students to kind of like, we call them our handlers. They just like followed us around and helped us with anything that we needed. And then at the end of the trip, we ended up becoming really good friends. So it was really nice that they did that for us. But we were like, hey, where do we get food this morning? Really hungry. And they're like, oh my gosh, come to the student canteen with us and like we'll get you whatever you want. So the very first morning we got there, went to their huge cafeteria, and there was like, it was a cafeteria, so there's just like booths of food everywhere.
Yeah.
Not food that I was used to seeing, which was the best part, obviously. But they took us around to each one, and they got us like kind of like a rice soup type thing. It was a little bit sweet, but it was kind of milky. And then they also had something it looked like a bean sort of soup that they would eat with these puffed up. They were like donuts, but again, no sugar in them at all, that you would like dip in with them. And then they had some dumplings and things like that. So that
all sounds really good.
I know. It was really good. And I was like, I feel like I don't have enough time to appreciate this because we have to get back on our schedule in like 10 minutes. So I'm just going to try to eat this as fast as I can.
Yeah.
I felt truly like a terrible guest. I was like, I'm just eating this so fast. But yeah, I feel like that was a common occurrence in the days that I felt it was so scheduled that I was like, I feel like I need more time to enjoy this because it's such a wonderful experience that I want to be able to take in, but then we're on to the next activity throughout the day. Yeah,
that's one of my pet peeves about like doing group trips. Is sometimes you can be really short on time, or maybe have too much time at some place where you want to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But that's hard.
I think it's always important when you're planning, like when I plan trips, I like to make sure I have 1 or 2 main activities planned and then plenty of downtime.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people who I'm like, I need like a midday nap because otherwise I'm going to get hangry. I'm going to get tired. Like I need a little bit of downtime. Have
you been to Spain?
That's on my top list to go.
You would fit in well there.
Listen, I feel like I would. That would be exciting for me. People now, I'm like, even now, just like every day to day, I'm like, oh, I want to go take a nap. And they're like, what do you mean? This is America. We don't take naps. We have to work. And I'm like, I don't think I'm American.
Yeah, you don't ever get to sleep ever.
No.
It's all about productivity.
Yeah, 4 a.m. up. Anyway, but we actually, in China, we got to take a nap too. Like that first day, so after we had the really nice lunch with all the students, we walked back to the dean's house and we're like, okay, what are we going to do now? And she's like, now you're going to take a nap. I'm like, we're like, are we going to go back to the hotel? And she was like, no, I've made you all rooms here. Like, please take a nap. Like, it's natural. You need to sleep and like digest. And I'm like, okay, listen, I'm so jet lagged and this sounds lovely. So she took us each to like our individual rooms that she had made up for us. And of course I couldn't sleep. I tried so hard, but I couldn't. And so I was just kind of laying there on the bed, like, do you think, because she said, I'll come back at like at this time. And so I was just waiting for that time, like looking around at all the art and like decor she had in there. And the time rolled around that she was supposed to come check on us. And I'm like, no one's here. What am I supposed to do now? So that was that was an awkward situation. I'm like, do I get up? Do I wander around this house and try to find her? Do I stay put? Like, I don't know what to do. But the bed itself was odd. For me, as an American, it's not odd. It's just a different thing. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't in a mattress at all. It was just kind of like a hard pad. Mm-hmm. And I'm a side sleeper, so I'm like, this is digging into my hip. Yeah. I can't possibly sleep. But yeah, it was nice to have that time just to myself to kind of, it was, like I said, it was a good time to digest what was all going around. So that was fun. And then after that, she woke us up and she had like a beautiful bouquet of flowers for each of us. I know, I felt like royalty. I'm like I said, I don't know if they do that for everyone, but they were so kind the entire time and really thoughtful of like so many different things that, I don't know, as an American, I don't know if I would go to that depth for my guest. I feel like I'd be overstepping or something.
Definitely, I get my guest flowers for no reason.
No flowers for you. But yeah, so she gave us all those gifts and then we walked back to the hotel because we had to get ready because we were invited to a wedding there in like 20 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
I know. And so the other thing is we didn't pack for a wedding. Like we packed for a really hot summer of walking around and going to classes. We didn't. And so I'm like, I luckily brought one dress and it's going to have to work for this. But they were like, absolutely don't worry. Like you can wear whatever you want to this wedding. And it just felt so odd to me. I'm like, I feel like I need to dress up, but I'm like, I have sandals. Like I don't have anything nice with me. But yeah, and luckily my professor didn't either. So we're like kind of equal casual dress level, which was fine. No one said anything to us at least. And they were all like genuinely happy for us to be there. At least that's what it felt like. And I was like, I can't imagine that if I was getting married and just like two random foreigners come to my wedding, I'd be like, cool, hop on in. Like, but yeah, that was an insanely cool experience to get to go through.
What was the wedding like? Was it similar to here in the U.S. or was it really different?
So it was half American wedding, half Chinese wedding. So it had a little bit of elements of each. So they do half of the vows and half of the talking in English and half in Chinese, or they re-say it. But what I did find to be different is, so we arrived there and we were worried we were going to be late. We're like we had to go change. We weren't prepared for this. But it didn't start. Like it kept it was like 2 hours late. And everyone was just fine with it. So I think it's just assumed that when you show up for a wedding, you're going to be there and you're going to talk to people and that kind of almost like a cocktail hour. But I was like, in my head, that's kind of after the wedding, before the thing. But no, and the bride and groom were just out there like mingling with everyone, taking photos. And I'm like, I feel normally you don't see them before the show. You show up and you're like, hope this is the right place. Don't see them. But so I don't know if it was just the particular wedding I was at it felt more laid back and or if all weddings are like that. But probably not all weddings, but my particular one experience of a Chinese wedding was very laid back. And it was also super windy that day and it was outside. So all of the decorations were blowing over and no one seemed to care. Like they were just really focused on the ceremony and what was going on. And my brain was like, but things are flying everywhere and no one's concerned about this. So,
interesting.
Yeah. I guess they were really focused on it. And I thought I guess that's pretty beautiful to not be worried about all the other craziness that's going on because you're there to celebrate the love of these two people.
Probably some lesson there.
Probably some lesson.
Don't get distracted by all the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to write down on the journal. But yeah, so the food they had there too, it was the same setup as the big office room with a swiveling table so everyone could get the food, but on a miniature scale because there's like 20 tables and they had that. One fun thing is that there was Coca-Cola on all the tables. And anytime we went anywhere, someone was like, do you want Coca-Cola? And at first I was like, oh, again, they're trying to appease their American guests. But I'm like, no, they genuinely love Coca-Cola here. And yeah, I'm like, I'm not a pop person, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't assume that would be such a big thing.
Yeah, that's wild. It's amazing that Coca-Cola is literally all over the world. Mm-hmm. Anytime I've traveled, it's possible to get Coke.
Is it, so it's possible to get a Coke, but is it like in other places you've been, has it been like a drink of choice for people?
Yeah, some places more than others. It's like if someone wanted a pop, like that's one that's always available.
No orange Fanta.
That one, yeah. Jinx. Yeah, Fanta's usually available as well.
That's funny. That's my go-to when I was like, there's no way they'd have, well, I guess I was wrong.
I always see Coke and Fanta. Pretty much every place I've been.
I guess that's another lesson for me of to not assume so many things.
Yeah. Yeah, traveling as much as I've had, you can't assume anything about anything.
No, not even things
you
that
never know.
You think you can assume.
Yeah.
You're like your travel destination, the hotel you're staying at gets completely changed at a random time. Then you're like, this is the only thing I thought for sure was going to be good, and then it changed.
Yeah, on that note, it reminded me, my dad told me this story before. He went to Mongolia in the early 2000s, I think, but he was like way out in the middle of nowhere, and whoever was out there with him, some Mongolian person, was like, oh, you're American, Michael Jordan. They're like way out in the middle of nowhere where like they would not have TVs or anything. Like that person knew who Michael Jordan was.
Wow.
And it's crazy like how things get around the world.
I mean, this is not the same because obviously China is a thriving country, not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, sorry, Beijing is like a huge city, so it's like that's not the same at all. But they loved American basketball so much, which I'm not a basketball fan, so I'm not following it all. But they were like, the Lakers game is on tonight. Yeah. We're all watching it. And I was like, okay, I'll be sleeping. You can watch the Lakers game if you want. And then afterwards, we all went and played basketball out on the courts. And I'm like, okay, like I'm not good at this either, but it's fun at 11 p.m. after watching the game to go out and play with anyway, I thought that was crazy. I didn't think, and they'd ask us, they're like, we know all these things for American culture. And it's like our day-to-day life. What do you know about Chinese culture? And I'm like,
nothing.
I feel so bad. Yeah. I'm like, I've watched a couple of these movies and we have really terrible Americanized Chinese food. Does that count? And they're like, what? So yeah, I felt bad about that.
Yeah, that's a lot of countries around the world, a lot of people around the world pay attention to American culture and politics and everything like that. And literally, if you asked anyone about any other politics or whatever, like we have no idea. We don't pay attention to anyone else's stuff.
I know. And I feel bad about that all the time. Like, I guess that's one of the reasons I love traveling and like trying to get to know other cultures is I'm like, I feel so terrible all the time when I don't know any, like it makes you feel like you just don't give a damn. And I'm like, I want to be a person that gives a damn about other countries,
Well, you get to see how it really is. I mean, the little that we do see on TV or whatever in the media, like that's one small piece of it. But like if you go there to the actual place, you see like that's not how it is at all. Like that's one small little thing that happens, but otherwise it's totally different.
Exactly. And I think that was one of the reasons I was excited to talk about my time at China is because, after everything that went on recently, I feel like there's such negative things being said about the country. And sure, a portion of that may be true to a certain thing that's going on, but the rest of it's just so not. And you realize how many things aren't true and how kind the people are there. And like the main thing I took away from it is like China was nothing like I expected and everything like I expected at the exact same time. And so it's just crazy that sometimes you can only have a certain worldview of things and it comes from your TV screen.
Yeah.
And it's just not the same.
Yeah. That's just one small part. It's not all of reality.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, I mean, pretty much everywhere I've been, most of the people are super friendly and they're excited that you're there. They're excited to share their culture and everything like that. Like most people are not bad people around the world.
No. And the small percentage that is, like, the likelihood that you're going to run into them, not very high.
Yeah. Did you feel pretty safe over there?
Yeah, I felt completely safe the entire time, but we also had the handlers with us the whole time. And like, that sounds, I mean that in a kind way. Like, they were legitimately there to make sure we got to where we were going. And like, they were students our age too. So we were just talking the whole time, and it was really great. And then people knew when, like, so even when we spread out, like, on the weekends, we got to have our day trips. And so we would split up with our individual groups of students, and it's just like here, you get in your Ubers and you find your way to the same location, and everyone got there. And if you didn't, there was phones all the time to make sure where you were at and things like that. So yeah, I felt safe the entire time, and honestly, even like more safe, just because like everywhere we would go, people would stop on the streets, look at us, point, and say something, or want to take photos with us, or like, just because we're Americans in a new country. And like, especially outside of Beijing, like more in the suburbs area, you don't get a lot of that because all the tourists are in big cities.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't know, I guess I just felt like everyone was happy to have us there. Whether that's just me internalizing it or not, but I did feel safe. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So was there any other like exciting or really memorable moments during the time there?
So many.
Okay.
I feel like I've only gotten halfway through it. So I think there's so many cool parts. I can't say the coolest part, but I did get to see the Great Wall. And classic touristy, but absolutely amazing. Like, that is one of the things you have to do if you go, or if anyone goes.
I want to.
It's so, we only got to be there for like 2 hours, but I could have been there all day long, like walking all over the wall and looking at the different watchtowers, and just the view from there is insane.
I bet.
And I don't know, the whole country, you can feel the history there. Like, you're in an ancient culture. Like, of course, like you're in the city, you're doing all these different things, but there's just a sense like that you don't get in America.
Yeah.
Or honestly any other country, because it's so old.
Yeah.
Like, you really feel it, and it's amazing. And yeah, so I could have spent the whole day there. There's actually a Great Wall Marathon.
Oh, no way.
And I don't run marathons, but I was like, in my head, I was like, I want to do that marathon.
That would be insane.
I don't know how they do it, because it's not flat. Like, it wouldn't be a marathon, like an actual run. It'd be like you're on like up and down, and there's stairs, and like even walking it, like, it's a lot. So I can't imagine running that much.
I'd be scared. I'd get tired or something, and then trip and then fall off the wall.
There's walls, huge walls. You can fall off.
Dang, that's wild. That would be a unique experience.
Yeah. And that day we went, it was pouring rain. Like, we woke up and rain, and it was like 90 degrees and sunny the whole time we were there. And this one day, pouring buckets of rain. And so I'm like, I'm glad I brought my rain jacket. Yeah. And we went to this little shop before we got to the wall, and everyone put on some waterproof, like, little booties. And it was really funny watching the old professors like put them on. They're like, what are these? And we're like, just put them over your shoes, like, it'll be fine. And the sizing for the shoes were all off. So the one guy we went with had like a size 13 foot, and they're like, we don't have that size here, sir. But yeah, so it was really fun even in the pouring rain. I think it made for better photos and a better experience, even though it was like we were drenched. But yeah, it was good. And that's everything we did for that day. It was a whole day excursion. But the other days they took us for other activities, and one of the things that we got to do was go to like a pottery museum kind of, but it was like they took little pieces of coiled like I don't know, like nickel or copper, and they'd adhere it to the piece of pottery they made, and then individually fill in each color with like different shards of glass pieces. And then that gets fired. And so we got to go into the fire room, and like we saw the women doing all the different little things on it. And like it was gorgeous artwork. Like it was, and we got to see the museum. But yeah, it was interesting to me because in my head I'm like, oh, if I want to learn a career, that's just something I'll go to school and I'll do it, and like that's what I'm going to do. But in China, it's almost decided for you or something. But the women had so much love for that work, like it's been handed down from so many different people. Like you could tell the detail of perfection that went into each piece, and I'm like, I could not learn how to do that so perfectly. Like the hours of training that went into making these beautiful pieces, it was it was lovely. I'm not an big art person, but like seeing them made, it was cool.
Yeah, it's amazing what people can do. I know with some of those like really detailed paintings or pieces of art, like I would lose my freaking mind if I tried to do that.
Like the little one that's just like little dots that makes a whole image.
And it's like, oh, this took 10 years. I'd be like, no way would I spend 10 years doing that.
No, I just have little half projects that are like finished everywhere. I'm like, oh, I'll get back to that when I get back to it. But I wonder how that 10-year painting got made. They're like, oh, I'll get back to it. Just a little bit every day.
Yeah. It's amazing what people can do. But what other fun stories?
Okay, so we went to the Forbidden City in Tiananmen Square. So that bit was a little controversial. That was actually, we were told not to bring that up while we were there. And we didn't, but a little part of me was like, I want to bring it up.
I know.
I want to ask so many questions, which we got to ask, like we asked some political questions. We asked things like that with just one-on-one with the students. And it was really good to hear their perspective on different things and, realize, I know this is like, they're just students just like us. They're just, I feel like people can be so villainized in the media and for things, but like, they're just regular students that have regular coursework and like have opinions and things like that. And so it was like, they were like, don't talk about things. And I'm like, that's not what the students would tell you. That's not what the people our age would tell you. That's what like the government wants to tell them. But anyway, it was a really fun time. So we went there, and I think that was one of the only places where I was like, wow, there's a lot of people here. Like it is packed. Because everywhere else I was just like, it just seems like the normal amount of people who would be in any city, but these really big touristy spots were packed. And for a good reason. Like it's gorgeous there. And I think we only walked a portion of the Forbidden City, but there were still so many things we didn't get to see. Like you could spend a week just looking at the different things there.
Wow.
Which I don't think I was fully prepared for like the things I was going to see, because I was like, there's another temple, there's another like castle, like all these different things that were built. My favorite one, there was a palace that had been created like to the side for one of the emperor's wives, and it was gigantic and gorgeous, and there was like a moat around it, like within the city itself. So it was just like, that's like weird to see. You don't see that very often. And then it had been burnt down. And so it was just like the remnants of this burnt building and it had a whole story that went with it, which seeing a temple, and then the burnt down one is like, oh, that's kind of cool. Hanging next to it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
Yeah. So I mean, like you said, something you're not going to see every day.
Yeah. So that was cool, and that was the place where people like mostly people had been coming up to us and asking for some photos, and we're like, oh, that's okay, but this was the only spot where there were people like there was a kind of big group of men who like grabbed us and pulled us over to the photos, and I was not prepared to be grabbed by a man today and yanked over for a photo, like, and then that was when the group we were with was like, no, like you can't do that. And that's the only time then someone like felt like it got a little bit dangerous, but everywhere else was really good and everything was well maintained, and I don't know, everything was nice.
Yeah. You're here to tell the tale.
Exactly. No one needed to worry about me.
Yeah. Any other moments you want to share about that trip?
Being on a high-speed train.
Ooh, how was that?
Fast.
I would hope so.
Yeah, but the travel was like getting from place to place was just so easy, and everyone used the trains, and it was they didn't have any safety barriers or up, and like you would see here, like be a whole bunch of safety barriers, but everything was just fine, and it was like 200 miles an hour on this train. Jeez. And like I kept wanting to look at things as I went by, but I'm like, I just don't look out the windows. Yeah. Like this will be until it slowed down a little bit, and then it was fine. And you look out and you see like this perfectly, like it was a perfectly manicured bush, but that they had like engraved like a train onto it, and so it was like layered train art on the, I don't know. Weird. I thought it was really cool. That just sticks in my memory for some reason. Yeah.
It's funny how like some of those weird little moments are the ones that you remember.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't think like that particular piece of nature, but like after seeing the Great Wall, but my brain was just like that for some reason. It's really, really stuck. I will say I loved all the food there, and they really made elaborate displays for us. Like every lunch, every morning, and every dinner, they had just like huge piles of food for us, and it was amazing. But I got Pizza Hut when I was there twice, and I was so excited about it. Like the first time, I was like, I just miss cheese and bread so much.
Yeah.
But I got a Durian Pizza, and I feel like durian gets a bad rap for a fruit because it's the world's smelliest fruit. But it tastes really good on pizza. Fact? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So I'm like,
learn something new every day.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't know how Pizza Hut down there is keeping everything down, but like, yeah, it was really good. And I had ordered it, and I was like, do you guys want to try like this really good? And then one of the students we were with, he's like, I'm actually allergic to that. And I was like, oh no, like I didn't even think that, like, you don't hear any Americans being like, I'm allergic to durian. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I told you what was on the pizza before then, because I didn't want to poison you. Like, imagine.
So offline, you told me, you mentioned to me a little bit about the dumplings. So I want to hear more about that.
The dumplings. Yes, I'm so excited to tell you about that. So I think that was like one of our last nights there. So it was like everyone was, well, okay, not everyone, me. I was a little emotional about having to leave the next day. So it was super sweet because it was kind of like a huge party that they invited us to with all of the students we had been hanging out with the whole week, and our professors that were there, and then other professors that we met. And so we walked up these steps to this like really lovely school building that again was super empty. And so I was like, why are all these buildings empty? I'm not quite sure. Like I had seen so many people around campus, but I guess whatever that section was used for special occasions. I'm not sure. But we got there, and they had like 3 different chefs and a whole bunch of tables set up. And we walk in, and they said, we're going to teach you how to make dumplings tonight for dinner.
Oh wow.
And I was immediately so excited because I mean, I don't know if you love dumplings, but
I do.
I'm not sure who doesn't. They're so good.
Yeah.
So they had already made the dough and they had already made the filling, but we had to put them all together. So they brought us around one table, and there's like 50 of us around this table. And so they get out like a tiny ball of dough and then teach us how to roll it out in a perfect circle, which I ended up trying it, and it's not as easy as they made it look to get it in a perfect circle.
Yeah, I bet.
But we got a lot of testing done in that section. I don't think they were very happy with a lot of the ones that I ended up making, but regardless, they tasted fantastic once they cooked them and brought them to us. And then they had a whole bunch of other tasty treats that they brought to go with it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
well, as long as they taste good, that's the important part.
and I feel like that's the thing I really took away from it is I definitely didn't take away the proper technique. Like I try, but there's no way. I do like the folding, and they're like you have your two thumbs and you just kind of press into it, and I could never get the technique right for that. But what I learned is like even the ones they did, the professionals, they didn't look that pretty, but they still tasted amazing. So I didn't feel too bad about it. But when I got back to the States, I was super excited. And I swear, like the first week I got back home, I was like, listen, family, I'm going to make you these dumplings because they're the best things I've ever tasted. And I can't get them anywhere else. So I'm just going to have to make them. And they ended up really liking them too. So now, like once a month, that's something that I have to make just because it's just a great treat to have.
No, that's cool. Yeah, that's I wish I had picked up more cooking on my travels, but I guess not.
But alas, it wasn't in your travel plans.
Yeah, yeah. But I do remember when I was in Taiwan, I went to this this restaurant had been recommended to me by multiple people, and so I went there and I had the best dumplings I've ever had in my life.
Do you know what was in them?
It was pork.
Okay.
But they just it just melted in my mouth. It was so good.
I think that's how you know if it's a good dumpling, if you don't even have to try to really chew it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was just by myself in this restaurant with, weird this weird looking white guy um in this restaurant by myself, and I'm just like over there freaking out like, "Oh my God, these are so good."
Sitting there making oohing and ahhing noises as
Yeah.
you're eating these. Not with chopsticks though, because you couldn't do that.
Yeah, no. I still cannot figure out the chopsticks, so it's a skill I got to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I think they made us one pork one, and then they made me like a vegetable egg type of one, and so obviously
Mm.
that's the only one I ate. But they were both. The other people said, of course, the pork ones were delicious, and I loved the egg ones. So I feel like if you just put the right seasonings in it, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter too much. I know that's like sacrilegious to say. If someone's going to listen to it, be like, "What do you mean it doesn't matter what you put in them?" But I just always do like a mix of vegetable or tofu or whatever just sounds good, and then
Hmm.
mix in the spices, and it turns out good.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely eat an egg one with some veggies in it. That sounds really good.
We'll have to plan a time I can make you some dumplings.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be fun to get a good group together and just like we all make a dish from our different travels.
We'd have international cooking night.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You can put that together, put it on the Instagram, and have a call for everyone to come around.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Except everyone's going to be all around the world, and it's going to be impossible to get everyone in the same room.
You're telling me you don't have enough pull to be like, listen, on this date, everyone make it to wherever we're going.
I mean, hopefully someday, but not right now.
That long-term goals.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
In a week or two,
Um,
I'm sure you'll be there.
yeah, yeah, that's my plan. That's when I envisioned, my business, I said I'm going to go from 0 to 100 right away.
Yeah. That sounds like the proper American model.
Yeah. No time for learning or growing or anything like that. Just be successful right away.
That's the goal. That's what I think in my head when I'm planning something is I'm always going to be successful 100% of the time right when I begin. No learning curve.
Yeah. Goodness. So you said you had one more story, is that right?
Yeah, I know. I was going back and forth. I'm like, I have here's the thing. I feel like I have to mention it because it felt like such an important part. So when we like almost every meal we went to, there was a little bottle of alcohol on the table. And the first day I was like kind of curious. I'm like, okay, like what is that? I've noticed like it was there at breakfast and then it was there again at lunch. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? And one of the professors who had been there for a couple weeks at this point, and he was like, oh, you're gonna want to try that. I was like, I don't know why you're saying it that way. Should I be concerned? Um, so he opens the
Probably.
bottle, and um, it's called. I don't know if I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of, but Baiju,
Okay.
which is like it's a type of not like a hard alcohol wine mix, but I was trying to find the exact alcohol by volume ratio and I was looking it up. I couldn't get the exact one, but they gave like it said 30 to 120% ABV. And
Oh, what?
but like I don't know if you like a regular vodka in America is like 40%. And so this alcohol was way over that. So I open the bottle and I go to give it a smell. And before it gets like anywhere near my nose, I am just hit with so much like my eyes start watering my nose. I'm
Oh,
like,
no.
is this poison? Like if I take a drink of this, I might legitimately die. Um, so anyway, I was like, I just have to do this. Like it's a once in a lifetime experience. I'm not gonna say no. Plus, he was like, you have to get used to it now because when you go to dinner, people are gonna ask you to take shots with them because it's like seen
Oh,
as a sign
no.
of respect. And like since we were students, they ended up being like more lenient with us. They're like, no, you don't have to take this. But like the adults, if they didn't take a drink with them, they were like, oh, like why aren't you drinking with us? Just because it's like it's a big part of their culture. And so I ended up taking the shot, and oh my gosh, that was that was the worst alcohol I've ever tasted.
Oh, no.
It was so strong. Um, and yeah, so that's the only shot I took because I could not handle the rest of it. But you could hear everywhere we went with the adults and then all the tables around us, like every 5 minutes you would see someone come with a tray of shots and then you'd hear everyone and they'd go Gumbe and then take a shot and like I swear it was every 5 minutes. And like that happened at the wedding too. And so I was like, how do they continue with these conversations? Like I feel like I'd be passed out on the ground.
Yeah, that sounds brutal. I mean, shots in general suck, but if it's extremely strong, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people definitely enjoyed it, and I don't know, maybe if I wasn't such a lightweight, I would have been able to embrace the idea more. So we'll see if that happens the next time I go someplace. I'm really just gonna have to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of going other places, do you have any trips on the books right now?
That's a good question. I feel like it's funny you asked me that because I swear just today I got an email from a program I know and they're like we have one spot left for our Italy trip and my
Ooh.
brain was like I need to be the one to take that spot.
Yeah, definitely.
But I couldn't commit that quickly. But I do have a couple trips planned. One I'm hoping to go to Italy at the end of September and early October with my friend and then we're trying to go to Germany for Oktoberfest.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be fun. That's a bucket list
yeah.
item for me.
I've always wanted to go to Germany, and so I'm like, I might as well go for like one of their biggest festivals. I can't go wrong there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That'd be so much fun.
And then I have a couple local Washington trips planned. I wanna hit up some hot springs and the rainforest and like the Olympic Park
Mhm.
area. I think that's gonna happen in the next couple of weeks. Um, and then once the weather gets a little warmer, I want to do Kolchak hike because I've never been there before, but it's just so gorgeous, and that's absolutely on my bucket list. So I'm trying to get those done.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I need to do some Washington State exploring this summer. I've been really bad about exploring our home state here.
You have to get on that.
I know, it's really embarrassing actually.
People are gonna be like, "Oh, so you're from Washington and you're an expert in travel. What are some good areas?" And you're like, "Ooh, about that."
Yeah, I can tell you everywhere but Washington.
They'll be like, "Oh, good. Glad that helps us."
Yeah. Anyways, any other exciting moments you want to share or fun stories?
I mean, I don't think so. There's so many like different things that I could probably bring up. But I think kind of just to summarize, take the opportunities to go on the trips. If I could give any advice,
Yeah.
that's what I would give to people, because life is just too short and opportunities will pass you by if you don't take the opportunity to do them. Like, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd get to go to China, and then when the opportunity presented itself, like, I can't even imagine if I would have said no. Like, I feel like I would have been a different person. So I'm really glad I had that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. I 100% agree. I mean, like you said, life is too short. Um, go take those chances, take those opportunities, because you are going to learn and grow, and it'll be worth it in the end for sure.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone who went on a trip and said, nope, wasn't worth it. Wish I would have just stayed home and watched TV.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met anyone who said that either. That would be very sad.
Wouldn't want to go on that trip if it was.
Yeah, I would be like, okay, I'm going to take you on a trip and you're going to have fun this time.
You're like, get on the plate right now. And they'll be like, sir, I don't know you.
Well, you are going to know me after this. So. Goodness. Well, Savannah, I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I loved learning more about China and your experiences there. Makes me want to go to China. Sounds like it's a little bit difficult to get there and get around, but seems like, such a unique place to go to. So yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on the podcast. And I hope you can get to China soon. Maybe, I don't know if it'll get easier in the future, but you can start your visa application now, and then maybe you'll get there soon.
Yeah, maybe in a year I'll be able to go.
True. You can dream. Add that to the bucket list.
Yeah, there we go. Well, awesome. Well, thanks again, and I hope to see you somewhere around the world soon.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Bye, everyone. Hey, everybody. Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always check out every episode on Spotify and Anchor. And now you can also listen on YouTube. Links are in the description below. If you want to see my travel pictures as well as travel pictures from guests on the show, you can check them out on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And if you want to share your own pictures on the Instagram page and or be a guest on the podcast, you can message me via that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to see your pictures and hear about your travel experiences. And if that isn't enough for you, make sure to check out my new show, From Around the World Fridays. Every Friday, I'm taking 5 to 10 minutes to discuss one specific travel topic, whether that be questions I get from listeners, sharing some souvenirs that I've bought over the years, or discussing one particular city or country that I've been to, and so much more. You'll be able to listen to that via Spotify and Anchor as well, and be able to see the video version, which I'm really excited about, on YouTube. So check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed. And thanks again for listening, and I will see you around the world soon.